What are you girls doing in my bedroom in the middle of the night?
This isn't your bedroom, and this isn't the middle of the night. It's 7 o'clock in the morning.
Don't argue with me. I'm your father.
From a one-episode character who became the show's breakout star to college sweatshirts flooding the production office, Too Close for Comfort had more bizarre behind-the-scenes moments than most sitcoms. With political protests, age-defying casting, transvestite plot twists, and a tragic final season cut short by death, this 80s family sitcom hid some truly unexpected secrets behind its laugh track. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Too Close for Comfort. Fact 1. Monroe was only supposed to appear once. When Jim J. Bullock first auditioned for Too Close for Comfort in 1980, he was brought in to play a character named Monroe Ficus, who would appear in just one episode and then disappear forever. The character was written as Sarah's depressed, lonely college friend and street musician who she tries to help out before sending him on his way. But something unexpected happened during filming that changed the entire trajectory of the show. The producers and Ted Knight himself were so charmed by Bullock's portrayal of the bumbling, accident-prone character that they decided to keep him around permanently. Monroe's dense demeanor and his ability to send Henry Rush into apoplectic fits of frustration created a comedic dynamic that nobody had anticipated would work so well. Bullock, who was billed as Jam J. Bullock, with an intentionally missing I in his first name because another Jim Bullock was already in the Actors Union, initially had no idea his one-shot appearance would turn into a career-defining role. The character was introduced to Henry by Sarah as someone who needed help, and although both daughters tried to assist Monroe and move him along, he somehow kept getting woven into the entire family's affairs. By the time the episode aired, Monroe had become Henry's principal foil, even though that was never anyone's intention. Bullock went on to appear in over 100 episodes throughout the show's entire run, and Monroe Ficus became one of the most memorable characters of 1980s television, proving that sometimes the best creative decisions happen completely by accident when producers trust their instincts and recognize genuine chemistry between actors. Fact 2. Fans sent 107 college sweatshirts.
I think I do. Those two women were attracted to Moreau. They desired him and helped themselves.
One of the most distinctive running gags throughout Too Close for Comfort was Henry Rush's wardrobe, which consisted almost entirely of sweatshirts representing different American colleges and universities. This quirky costume choice started completely by chance when Ted Knight wore a University of Michigan sweatshirt in the very first episode of the series. College students watching the show noticed the sweatshirt and started getting ideas. Soon, fans from universities all across the country began mailing their own school's logo sweatshirts directly to the production office, hoping that Ted Knight would wear their particular college's colors on national television. The producers decided to embrace this unexpected audience participation, and Knight began wearing as many different sweatshirts as possible in each episode to please the fans who had sent them in. By the time the series ended, a total of 107 different schools had been featured on the show, with Oregon State University and Northwestern University tying for the most appearances throughout the series' run. The sweatshirt tradition became so beloved that it was eventually written into the show's storyline itself. In one episode, the writers revealed that Henry wore all these different college sweatshirts specifically because he himself had never actually attended college, adding a touching layer of character depth to what had started as a simple wardrobe choice. Knight reportedly enjoyed the ritual of selecting which sweatshirt to wear for each scene, and the producers kept careful records to ensure that schools were featured fairly and that devoted fans would eventually see their contributions on screen during the show's multi-year run on ABC and later in syndication. Fact 3. Lydia Cornell was 27, playing 18.
Not too good, Dad. I have this terrible conflict that I need to discuss with you so I can get it resolved.
When Lydia Cornell landed the role of Sarah Rush on Too Close for Comfort. In 1980, she was cast as an 18-year-old college freshman at San Francisco State University who was ditzy, blonde, and still figuring out adult life. But there was something the audience didn't know. Cornell herself was actually 27 years old when she started playing the teenage character, making her nearly a decade older than Sarah was supposed to be. Born Lydia Korniloff on July 23, 1953, in El Paso, Texas, Cornell had already graduated from the University of Colorado with a Bachelor of Science degree in business, advertising, and English drama by the time she auditioned for the show. She had even worked as a road manager for musician Michael Murphy and spent time as a photographer and kitchen worker at Caribou Ranch Recording Studio, where she met rock stars like Billy Joel, Dennis Wilson, and Joni Mitchell. Despite all this real-world experience and maturity, Cornell successfully convinced producers and audiences alike that she was a naive college kid living downstairs from her overprotective parents. Her ability to portray Sarah's innocence and youthful energy was so convincing that the age gap never became an issue during the show's 5-season run. Cornell later admitted that landing the role was partly due to luck and timing. She arrived at her audition an hour late because of rain in Los Angeles, wearing a tight cheerleader sweater, and was almost turned away before creator Arnie Sultan decided to let her read for the part anyway. The casting decision proved successful, as Cornell's portrayal of Sarah became one of the show's most popular elements, and she remained with the series until 1985. Fact 4. Oakland politicians protested the show.
You could if you had a roommate.
Well, yeah, but I don't know anybody that I'd want. Oh, no, you don't. You're one of the main reasons I want out. I wouldn't share an apartment with you.
Why not? What's wrong with me?
In the first season of Too Close for Comfort, there was an episode called Tenants Anyone, where Jackie and Sarah Rush decided to move out of their parents' San Francisco duplex and into an apartment across the bay in Oakland. The episode portrayed Oakland as a dangerous, crime-ridden neighborhood with terrible living conditions, including undrinkable water and the constant sound of police sirens. Henry Rush reacted with horror every time the city's name was mentioned, and the family complained endlessly about how awful Oakland was compared to their safe San Francisco home. When the episode aired in December of 1980, Oakland city officials were not amused by this unflattering depiction of their city. Local politicians briefly protested the show's negative portrayal, arguing that it perpetuated harmful stereotypes about Oakland, which had a significantly larger black population than San Francisco, making the jokes particularly problematic. The controversy became serious enough that when Too Close for Comfort was later prepared for syndicated reruns, the producers made the unusual decision to go back and redub all references to Oakland in the episode. In the syndicated versions that aired on networks like Nickelodeon's Nick at Night and TV Land, every mention of Oakland was replaced with the fictional name Old Town to avoid further offense. This dubbing created an awkward viewing experience where the audio clearly didn't match the actors' lip movements whenever the city name was spoken. The Oakland incident became a notable example of how sitcom humor that seemed acceptable in 1980 could quickly cross the line into offensive territory, and it remains one of the more controversial moments in the show's history. Fact 5. The downstairs tenant was a transvestite.
Henry, I expected you an hour ago.
Well, it shouldn't have taken that long, but Monroe was helping me.
The very first episode of Too Close for Comfort opened with an unusual and surprisingly progressive plot twist for 1980 television. Henry and Muriel Rush's longtime downstairs tenant, a man named Myron Rafkin, had suddenly died, leaving the apartment vacant. When the Rush family went through Rafkin's belongings and started piecing together information about his life, they made a shocking discovery. Rafkin had been living a secret double life as a transvestite. Henry Rush suddenly realized that all the mysterious women he had been politely opening the door for and greeting over the years were not actually different female visitors at all. They were all Rafkin himself, dressed in women's clothing. This revelation became a major plot point because it explained why the downstairs apartment was decorated in such a gaudily ornate and ultra-modern style, which became another running gag throughout the first season. The furniture Rafkin left behind was so outrageously stylish and uncomfortable that Henry would fall off the ultra-modern chairs or couch every single time he attempted to sit down on them, which was even featured in the show's opening credits for the first 4 seasons. The character of Mildred Rafkin, played by comedian Selma Diamond, was introduced as Myron's sister who came to claim his belongings, and she remained unaware until late in the episode that her brother had been a transvestite. The Rafkin storyline allowed Jackie and Sarah to convince their parents to rent them the downstairs apartment, setting up the entire premise of the series, and references to Rafkin continued throughout multiple seasons, including a Thanksgiving episode where a wealthy furniture store owner who had been Rafkin's friend visited the family. Fact 6. Ted Knight used real ventriloquism skills.
Do you realize that quack convinced you that you were listening to the voice of a ghost? A ghost, Muriel. You are now believing in ghosts.
Throughout Too Close for Comfort, Henry Rush was portrayed as a work-at-home cartoonist who created a comic strip called Cosmic Cow, featuring a space-fighting crime fighter superhero character. Whenever Henry was shown working in his bedroom drawing the comic strip, he would have conversations with a hand puppet version of Cosmic Cow, and viewers might have assumed this was just clever editing or voiceover work. But Ted Knight was actually performing real ventriloquism during those scenes, using skills he had developed decades earlier in his career. Before Knight became famous as the vain and untalented newscaster Ted Baxter on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, he had spent the 1950s working in local television. From 1950 to 1955, Knight worked as a children's television show host at WJAR-TV in Providence, Rhode Island, where he became proficient with puppets and ventriloquism as part of his daily hosting duties. Those years of practice meant that when Too Close for Comfort required him to interact with the Cosmic Cow puppet, Knight could perform the ventriloquism himself without any technical assistance or dubbing. The puppet became such an iconic part of the show that it appeared in multiple storylines, including one episode where an overzealous fan actually stole Henry's Cosmic Cow puppet. Knight's ability to make the puppet seem alive through his ventriloquism skills added an extra layer of authenticity to Henry Rush's character as a cartoonist, and it gave the show a unique visual element that set it apart from other family sitcoms of the era. The fact that Knight could draw on his real-life experience as a children's entertainer to enhance his performance is a testament to his versatility as an actor. Fact 7. Honeymooners legend joined as mother-in-law.
Bambino?
Well, we were only there 10 days. They couldn't master the whole language.
When Too Close for Comfort entered its 3rd season in 1982, the producers made a significant casting decision by bringing in television legend Audrey Meadows to play Iris Martin, Muriel Rush's mother, and Henry's despised mother-in-law. This was a huge deal because Meadows was already a beloved icon from her role as Alice Cramden, the sharp-tongued wife of Ralph Cramden on the classic 1950s sitcom The Honeymooners, where she starred opposite Jackie Gleason. Meadows had been brought into the cast specifically to serve as another comic foil for Ted Knight's character, creating a new dynamic where Henry had to deal with not just his daughters and Monroe, but also his overbearing and critical mother-in-law who never thought he was good enough for Muriel. The character of Iris Martin was added to help take care of Andrew, the baby son that Muriel had given birth to at the end of Season 2, which gave a practical story reason for her presence. Iris made no secret of her distaste for Henry, though the show often hinted that her negative feelings weren't entirely set in stone and that she only wanted more for her daughter. The casting was particularly interesting because both Meadows and Knight were playing against their most famous previous roles. Meadows had been the patient, working-class wife on The Honeymooners, while Knight had been the buffoonish Ted Baxter on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, and now they were playing a contentious mother-in-law and son-in-law relationship. Meadows appeared as a semi-regular character throughout the third season and made occasional guest appearances in later seasons, bringing her considerable comedic timing and experience to the show before it eventually ended. Fact 8. Ted Knight had a cameo in Psycho.
I'll fix it. Turn it on. Off!
Long before Ted Knight became a household name as Ted Baxter on The Mary Tyler Moore Show or Henry Rush on Too Close for Comfort, he appeared in one of the most famous films in cinema history, though most viewers probably never noticed him. In Alfred Hitchcock's psychological thriller Psycho, which was released in 1960, Knight had a small non-speaking role as a police officer in the film's final moments. His character appears in the last scene of the movie, standing guard outside the room where Norman Bates sits, wrapped in a blanket after being arrested, having been revealed as the killer who had been dressing up as his deceased mother. Knight's role required no dialogue whatsoever. He simply stood there as a police presence while the psychological horror of Norman's situation played out. This tiny part was just one of many small television and film roles that Knight took during the 1950s and 60s while he was creating commercial voiceovers and trying to build his acting career. At the time, Knight was spending most of his energy on voice work for children's cartoon shows, including serving as the narrator on Super Friends, where he would intone the famous line, "Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice," and he appeared in various episodic television shows like The Twilight Zone, Gunsmoke, and The Donna Reed Show. The Psycho cameo became a fun piece of trivia that many fans of Too Close for Comfort didn't discover until years later when they re-watched the Hitchcock classic and suddenly recognized the familiar face standing in that final scene. Knight himself rarely discussed this brief appearance, as it was such a minor role in his long career, but it remains a fascinating connection between a master of suspense and a future master of sitcom comedy. Fact 9. The show plummeted. From number 6 to number 38.
Maybe I should wait a while, because if he realizes he left it, he may turn around and come back. Or he may go into the hotel and call from there and ask me to bring him.
Too Close for Comfort had been performing exceptionally well during its first 2 seasons on ABC, benefiting from its placement in the network's powerhouse Tuesday night lineup at 9:30 p.m., right after massive hits like Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and Three's Company. During the 1981 to 82 season, the show ranked number 6 in the overall Nielsen ratings, averaging over 18 million viewers per episode and establishing itself as one of the most popular sitcoms on television. Then ABC made a decision that would prove catastrophic. For the 1982 to 83 season, network executives moved Too Close for Comfort from its successful Tuesday night slot to Thursday nights at 9 p.m., pairing it with a lineup of struggling new shows including Joni Loves Chachi, a Happy Days spin-off that was failing to find an audience, along with other freshman series like Star of the Family and It Takes Two, which were also performing poorly. The move to Thursday nights put the show in direct competition with established hits on other networks like NBC's Cheers and Simon on CBS. The result was immediate and devastating. Too Close for Comfort's ratings fell drastically, plummeting all the way down to number 38 in the seasonal rankings. This represented a shocking drop of 32 positions in just 1 year, and it had nothing to do with the quality of the show itself. It was purely a scheduling disaster. At the conclusion of the season, ABC canceled the series, ending its network run after only 3 seasons. The cancellation seemed like the end of Too Close for Comfort, but the story didn't end there, as we'll see in another fact later. Fact 10. It was based on a British sitcom.
Hi, Dad.
Where's your mother?
I don't know.
It's 5 o'clock. I just got home. She's not there.
Too Close for Comfort was not an original American creation. It was actually adapted from a British sitcom called Keep It in the Family, which had premiered on Thames Television in the United Kingdom just 9 months before the American version debuted in the United States. Both shows were created by British writer Brian Cook, who worked with American producers Arnie Sultan and Earl Barrett to adapt his British series for American audiences. The producer who brought the show across the Atlantic was Don L. Taffner, who had already proven himself successful at adapting British sitcoms for American television. His biggest previous success had been taking the Thames Television sitcom Man About the House and transforming it into the hugely popular American series Three's Company, which had premiered in 1976 and was still running strong when Too Close for Comfort launched in 1980. The basic premise of both Keep It in the Family and Too Close for Comfort was the same. A conservative, middle-aged father living close to his adult daughters and dealing with the comedic tensions that arise from being too involved in their lives. However, the American version made significant changes to fit the culture and expectations of United States audiences. The British version reflected middle-class British life and domestic humor with a more cynical and resigned tone, while the American adaptation was tailored for suburban American life in the 1980s, with a focus on the clash between traditional family values and modern social trends. The American version also leaned more heavily into physical comedy and broader humor, which was typical of the differences between British and American sitcom styles during that era. Fact 11. Metro Media resurrected the canceled show.
Hey, Shirley! Sorry it took so long getting your drinks, but the magician's also the bartender.
I hope the drinks are better than this act.
When ABC canceled Too Close for Comfort at the end of its third season in May of 1983, it appeared to be the end of the road for Henry Rush and his family. But during the early 1980s, a television station owner called Metro Media was actively trying to expand its portfolio of original syndicated programming through its production subsidiary called Metro Media Producers Corporation, and they saw an opportunity in the canceled sitcom. Metro Media was attempting to build what would eventually become the Fox Broadcasting Company, which meant they needed quality content that could be distributed to independent stations across the country. The company elected to pick up Too Close for Comfort and began producing brand new episodes to run in first-run syndication on various stations throughout the United States. Starting in April of 1984, a total of 23 new episodes were broadcast for the show's fourth season, featuring the exact same cast that had appeared on ABC. Monroe and Iris were still around to bother Henry, and Jackie and Sarah were still living downstairs, maintaining all the core relationships that made the show work. The revival was a genuine success. The show's ratings actually improved in syndication compared to its final ABC season, proving that the Thursday night time slot had been the problem, not the show itself. Metro Media was so pleased with the performance that they ordered an additional 30 episodes, which aired through November of 1985, bringing the syndicated run to 53 new episodes total. This resurrection made Too Close for Comfort one of the early success stories of first-run syndication, demonstrating that a show could thrive outside the traditional network system. Fact 12. An actor's strike delayed the premiere.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. It's a good icebreaker. Oh, it's an icebreaker.
Too Close for Comfort was originally scheduled to premiere on ABC at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on October 28, 1980, which would have given it a full season of episodes during the 1980 to 81 television season. However, the entertainment industry was dealing with a major crisis that year in the form of an actors' strike led by the Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, which had brought new programming production to a halt. The strike pushed back the debut of new fall shows by several months, creating chaos in the network television schedules. As a result of this delay, Too Close for Comfort didn't actually make its debut until November 11, 1980, nearly 2 weeks after its originally planned premiere date. To make matters more complicated, the show was preempted on its originally scheduled premiere date of October 28th in favor of broadcasting a presidential debate between Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter, with the presidential election taking place on November 4th. This combination of the actors' strike and the presidential election coverage meant that the show's first season consisted of only 19 episodes instead of the typical 22 to 24 episodes that would normally comprise a full network season. Despite this truncated first season, the show managed to garner high ratings right from the start, benefiting from its placement in ABC's powerhouse Tuesday night lineup following established hits. The shortened season actually worked in the show's favor in some ways, as it kept the audience wanting more and helped build anticipation for the second season, which would feature a full complement of episodes and introduce new characters like Monroe Ficus as a series regular. Fact 13. The final episode was a spin-off pilot.
So, $60 of that check is going to bounce, but the $105 will clear.
When ABC decided to cancel Too Close for Comfort at the end of its third season, the network made an unusual choice for the final episode that would air on their schedule. Instead of giving the show a proper series finale or ending on a typical episode, ABC broadcast an installment called Family Business on May 5, 1983, which was actually a backdoor pilot for a completely different sitcom that the network was considering developing. The episode focused on a character named Lucille Garibaldi, played by actress and singer Lainey Kazan, who was the mother of two sons portrayed by actors George Deloy and Jimmy Baio. The proposed spin-off series was supposed to follow the misadventures of this Italian-American family as they tried to run their late father's remodeling and construction business. The episode also featured Hilary Bailey Smith as an attractive female foreman that Lucille hired to work with her sons, which was meant to add romantic tension and fish-out-of-water comedy to the construction business setting. One son was written as an aspiring violinist, while the other was an aspiring professional athlete, creating a classic sitcom dynamic of siblings with conflicting personalities and dreams trying to work together in the family business. ABC aired reruns of Too Close for Comfort at 11 a.m. Eastern Time from June 27th to September 23, 1983, while they evaluated whether to pick up Family Business for the 1983 to 84 television season. Ultimately, the network decided not to move forward with the spin-off, especially given that they had just canceled the parent show, and Family Business never became a series, making it one of many failed backdoor pilots in television history. Fact 14. Ted Knight's death ended the show.
We're back with a brand new season. Guess who's moving in? Hi! We're gonna be inseparable.
After Too Close for Comfort was successfully revived in syndication and ran for 2 more seasons, the show underwent a major retooling in late 1985 for what would become its 6th season. The title was changed to The Ted Knight Show. The setting moved from San Francisco to Marin County, and both daughters were written out, while Henry became the editor of a local newspaper called the Marin Bugler. First-run episodes of this revamped version began broadcasting in April of 1986, and the show was performing well enough that it was scheduled to resume production for another season. A total of 22 episodes had been produced before the summer of 1986, with 12 of them having aired by mid-July. But behind the scenes, Ted Knight had been battling colon cancer since 1985, and his health was deteriorating. Knight underwent surgery in January of 1985 and experienced complications, and doctors advised him not to resume work until he had recovered. His condition continued to worsen throughout 1986, and on August 26th of that year, Ted Knight died at the age of 62. His death meant that no further episodes could be produced, effectively ending the series without any opportunity for a proper finale. The 10 remaining first-run episodes that had already been completed were broadcast from September 1986 through February 1987. But that was all. Knight was interred at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, and his grave marker bears his birth name, Theodore C. Konopka, along with the words, "Bye Guy," which was a reference to his famous Ted Baxter catchphrase, "Hi guys," from The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Fact 15. Henry never went to college.
He is not a foreigner. Hawaii is a state.
It's not a state unless you can drive there.
Throughout Too Close for Comfort's entire run, Henry Rush wore college and university sweatshirts in practically every episode, becoming one of the character's most distinctive and recognizable wardrobe choices. Viewers who tuned in regularly would see him sporting shirts from schools all across America, from the University of Michigan to Oregon State University to Northwestern University, and over 100 others. The sweatshirts became such a prominent part of the show that fans would watch specifically to see if their own school would appear on screen, and students would cheer when they spotted their university's logo on primetime television. But there was a poignant reason behind this wardrobe choice that the writers eventually decided to reveal to the audience. In one episode during the show's run, it was explicitly stated that Henry Rush wore all these different college sweatshirts specifically because he himself had never actually attended college. This revelation added an unexpected layer of character depth to what had started as simply a fun visual gag and a way to acknowledge fan participation. The fact that Henry, a successful cartoonist who worked from home and supported his family with his creative talents, had achieved everything without a college degree made the sweatshirts take on new meaning. They became a symbol of aspiration, respect for education, and perhaps even a hint of regret or longing for an experience that Henry never had. Some viewers interpreted this detail as Henry living vicariously through his daughters, both of whom were college students, and it helped explain why he was so invested in their education and so protective of their futures, even when his protectiveness crossed the line into meddling and interference.